Welcome to Food for Thought. My name is Colleen Patrick-Goudreau from Compassionate Cooks. I founded Compassionate Cooks to empower people to make informed food choices and to debunk myths about vegetarianism and animal rights. I do this in a number of ways, through cooking classes, through this podcast. I have an online cookbook. I give lectures and workshops. I write articles and essays, and I produced a cooking DVD. You can learn more about who we are and what we do by visiting our website, compassionatecooks.com. Your emails just keep coming in, and they really lift my spirit. Thank you to everyone who's written to me directly or who has posted a comment on iTunes. And if you haven't already, please do post a comment on iTunes. It's a great way to inspire other people to listen. Here's one from a listener who recently posted her comments there. I think it's so cool. She writes, "I can't believe I'm vegan, but at the same time, I can't believe I wasn't before. This podcast is so informative and helpful. I listened to a bunch in a row, and I've been meat and dairy free ever since. I feel wonderful, and dealing with family and friends has not been as hard as I would have thought, thanks to tips from Colleen." Isn't that great? I just love it. I've heard that from a number of people, that they listen to all the podcasts at once and then they make this kind of broad sweeping change from this megadose of my podcast. I suppose some would consider it a form of torture, but I think it'd be great if we could lock some people in a room and just like play my podcast over and over. Someone like Ted Nugent or something like that. Anyway, if you'd like to send me an email, you can do so at podcast@compassionatecooks.com. I know you probably hate this part, but if you do listen to these podcasts and have been motivated or inspired or transformed in any way, please consider sponsoring them. You can visit the website compassionatecooks.com and click on Support Our Podcast. When you get to that page, you can read more comments from people around the world. It really inspires me, and I think it will inspire you too, especially if you've ever thought for 1 second that people don't change. That, my friend, is a bunch of bunk. You can decide the amount. You can contribute monthly or one time, and there are little gifts associated with the different amounts. So just visit compassionatecooks.com and click on the button that says Support Our Podcast. And thank you very much for anything you can do. Barbara Whitney is the sponsor of today's podcast, whose very generous contribution helps me produce this podcast. In return, Barbara received a Be Kind to Animals, Don't Eat Them button. She chose which one she wanted. She chose a chick. We also have a goat, a bunny, a turkey, a calf, a lamb, and a pig. So you can also choose which one you want if you decide to sponsor this podcast. She also added a link to the podcast from her website. Thank you, Barbara, which is great. And you can inspire others to listen by doing the same thing. You can also send an email to friends with the podcast link, or you could even download the MP3 files and burn them onto a CD. All of this just helps to spread the word and empower people. So thank you for whatever you can do. Today, I want to talk about a very exciting subject, vitamin B12. I know this may not seem very sexy, but it is very important to talk about the nutrition aspects of being vegan. And let me just say right from the start that I am not a nutritionist, nor am I a doctor, and what I say should not be taken as medical advice, but I do get all of my information from dedicated, reputable nutritionists and doctors, and I'm only interested in passing along information that you can confirm with any medical specialist. One great online resource for information is a website called Vegan Health, and all of the information there is written by Jack Norris, who is a vegan advocate and registered dietitian. And Jack is just absolutely committed to setting the record straight about vegan nutrition. So check out veganhealth.org, where you can read a wealth of information about nutrition, some of which I'll be using here today. There are also Spanish, Polish, Russian, and Chinese translations of the articles on the site. So contact Jack if you'd like to translate the articles into other languages as well. Frankly, I think nutrition is a lot more simple than it's made out to be, but we've been taught to think that it's also complicated. And we get pretty obsessed with single nutrients, which if you're eating a whole foods diet, a whole foods plant-based diet, supplemented by a multivitamin and B12 on a regular basis, you don't have to worry about. You're good to go. So I hope what I say today will clear things up so that you will be a healthy, empowered, and informed person. And don't think that if you're not vegan, you don't have to pay attention to this. I've said this before. Everyone needs to make sure they're getting the proper nutrients, not just vegans. This isn't a matter of vegans have to worry about this and non-vegans don't. It's actually quite the contrary. Vegans particularly those who eat a whole foods diet. And that means food that's in its whole state. That means food that's not processed and packaged, actually have a leg up when it comes to nutrition. And with just a few tweaks, they can come pretty darn close to a near perfect diet based on what we now know about nutrition and food. And before I get to some nitty-gritty details, let's first talk about what it means for something to be an essential vitamin. It means that our body doesn't manufacture the vitamin, and so it's necessary that it come from our food in order for our bodies to absorb it. There are fat-soluble vitamins and there are water-soluble vitamins. The B vitamins, including B12, are water-soluble. So it's essential that we consume healthful foods that contain the vitamins and minerals we need. I really encourage people to get their nutrients from food. That's where they are. And I'm confident that I get my nutrients from the food I eat. But I also consider supplements an insurance policy, and I'll come back to this idea before the end of this podcast. Now, B12 comes up a lot because in the sound bites of the world, it's one of the vitamins that people understand to be the one that exists only in animal products. On the one hand, that's true, but there's more to it than that. Now, I mentioned this in a podcast called Cutting Out the Middleman, so you may have heard this before, but it's true that B12 is found primarily in the flesh and secretions of animals, fish, mammals, animal milk, and birds' eggs. But B12 doesn't just naturally occur in large amounts in the flesh of live animals. So why is it so prevalent in meat and dairy and eggs? It's because B12 grows on bacteria. Now, I'm going to say that again. B12 grows on bacteria. And why is there a lot of bacteria on meat? Because bacteria are attracted to dead flesh. Bacteria are attracted to rotting corpses. And I'm not saying this to be off-putting or shocking. I'm saying it because it's true. We're pretty good at pretending that it's something else, but that's what meat is. It's the flesh of dead animals. They're corpses, and bacteria love corpses. The good news is that B12 is created by a bacterial fermentation process, so you don't need animal products to produce it. Now, we used to consume some B12 from the ground where bacteria reside when we ate our vegetables and ate some soil at the same time. But now we scrub our vegetables so much because we're justifiably concerned about pesticides and herbicides and toxins, so we don't tend to eat any soil. We're also depleting our soil of nutrients because of the way we're farming, the way we're growing our food. So it's not as rich in vitamins now anyway. Now, I'm not recommending that people go out and start eating dirt. I'm just giving you a broader perspective of how this works, okay? Now, some foods such as tempeh, nori, seaweed, and spirulina have been touted as natural sources of B12, but not enough research really supports this yet. Though they do tend to contain B12, it's just not reliable enough. The best way to ensure that we get an adequate or an optimum supply of B12 is to just take it as a supplement. And I'll get back to this in a minute. Jack Norris has spent a huge amount of time researching this issue. He wants to make sure that we have the accurate, correct, right information so that we're all healthy. And I encourage you to visit his incredibly informative website. Again, it's veganhealth.org. Let's talk briefly about B12 deficiency. What would happen when we don't get enough B12? Now, there's an overt B12 deficiency and a mild B12 deficiency. In terms of the overt B12 deficiency, it's first important to understand what this vitamin's role is in our bodies and our health. B12 protects the nervous system. It also helps the digestive system stay healthy. Without it, permanent damage can result: blindness, deafness, dementia, unusual fatigue, tingling or numbness in the hands or feet, loss of appetite, loss of menstruation, nausea. These are all indications of potential B12 deficiency. Okay. In terms of so-called mild B12 deficiency, we need to understand that B12 lowers homocysteine levels and reduces the risk of heart disease, stroke, and other diseases. Now, we hear a lot about keeping cholesterol levels low, but we don't hear a lot about homocysteine levels, and they're just as important. Vegans and near vegans who don't supplement with vitamin B12 have consistently shown elevated homocysteine levels. So even though you might hear someone say, well, I've been vegan for years and I don't take a B12 supplement and I feel great, that doesn't mean there aren't effects on their bodies that they can't see or feel. So you can get your blood tested to just find out if you have a mild deficiency, and that might be a good thing to do anyway. So some vegan advocates have emphasized that we need only small amounts of B12. You may have heard that too, because our body stores it for years. Now, it's true that at the time they become vegan, some people have enough B12 stored in their livers to prevent overt B12 deficiency for a number of years. But these stores can't prevent the mild B12 deficiency, okay, the elevated homocysteine levels. Does that make sense? So there's just no reason not to take a supplement. It's just all easily solved by just taking a regular supplement. And our bodies require such a small amount of it. It's actually counted in micrograms. So how much do we need? Research has shown that optimal intakes of B12 are higher than the recommended dietary allowance for vitamin B12. Now, the recommended dietary allowance by the government is 2.4 micrograms or 2.8 micrograms for lactating women. So again, research suggests that more is required for optimal levels, and that range would be around 5 to 10 micrograms per day in terms of optimum levels. So therefore, to ensure not only adequate but optimal intake of vitamin B12, vegans should strive for 10 micrograms per day from supplements. Now, some foods are fortified with B12, but again, I just think it's easier to take a supplement because I don't eat the same things every day. Plus, not all fortified foods contain reliable amounts. So again, 10 micrograms per day, and when you get them in the supplement form, there are such high quantities of the B12. So 10 is something you will definitely reach by just taking your average supplement. Now, there are always exceptions, such as people who have digestive or malabsorption diseases such as pernicious anemia or even celiac sprue if you have trouble absorbing your nutrients, chronic kidney failure, B12 metabolism defects, or cyanide metabolism defects. And these people should consult a health professional. People over 50 also tend to lack proper B12 absorption. These are not just vegans. These are just people over 50. And as far as vegan infants are concerned, the infants of vegan mothers should be supplemented with B12 from birth, and the mother should be supplementing as well. Now, I mentioned before that I take a multivitamin every day for insurance, and I do. But in addition, I also take a separate vitamin B12 supplement. Again, it's just insurance. And one of the reasons is that vitamin C in doses of 500 milligrams or more, and it's usually about that amount in a multivitamin, it's shown that it may diminish the B12 availability or destroy the B12 altogether. So I usually take my multivitamin in the morning and my B12 at night, and it's just a habit I created, and now I don't think about it at all. So keep your vitamins in a place where you'll see them and be reminded to take them, maybe by your toothbrush, so you can take your multivitamin in the morning and your B12 at night when you brush your teeth, assuming you brush your teeth, and I am just going to make that assumption. Also, remember it takes 3 weeks to form a habit. So just give it some time, write it down in your date book, set an alarm, do whatever you have to do to form this habit, and eventually it will be a no-brainer. In terms of the type of supplement, you can take a sublingual, that is, it dissolves under the tongue, or just a regular tablet. There's also a spray. And if you haven't regularly been eating B12 fortified foods or taking a B12 supplement, Jack Norris recommends starting off with a sublingual B12, which will ensure a rapid replenishment of your B12 stores. And that's what the sublingual B12 does. It's just a quick absorption. So he recommends starting off with a sublingual, allowing 1,000 micrograms a day to dissolve under your tongue until the bottle runs out. And then you can switch to just a regular B12. Now, the individual supplements of B12 tend to be in doses of 1,000 micrograms. In other words, 1 gram of B12. So you can easily see that you get over 1,000% of what's required. So it's plenty, but just do it regularly. You can purchase B12 at your local natural food store, your health food store, and many places online. You can also find exactly what you need at Compassionate Cook store. I have been waiting for this for years, and Amazon just made this really easy for me to do. If you click on a button on CompassionateCooks.com called Stock Your Pantry, you'll be forwarded to Compassionate Cook store. And if you go to that store, you'll see that I've broken it down into such categories as kitchen tools and appliances, favorite cookbooks, recommended reading, food pantry essentials, etc. And these categories all have subcategories, and I'm building this all the time. It's certainly not comprehensive at this point. If you click on Food Pantry Essentials, you'll see a category called Supplements. And this is where you can find B12 in the form of sublinguals, tablets, or even a B12 spray, which is, again, similar to the sublinguals in that it provides a rapid absorption of B12. So if you'd like, you can buy B12 through me, through Compassionate Cooks, and you can also see the food processor that I recommend, my favorite cookbooks, tools and things that I recommend in my cooking classes all the time, and I really do stand behind these products. I'm so excited about this. So check that out, or just go to your natural food store. Now, keep in mind that everybody needs to be making sure they get B12. B12 deficiency is found in vegans as well as non-vegetarians, so everyone needs to make sure they're getting B12. These recommendations benefit everybody who eats, not just vegans. And finally, I want to speak to the idea that some people perpetuate that since we need to supplement with B12, it's proof that a vegan diet is not quote unquote natural. And I can hear some of you saying that. Don't think I can't hear you. I can hear you. Well, as I've already said, B12 grows on bacteria, not meat. So it's important to make that distinction. B12 is bacteria-derived, not meat-derived, okay? But let me just add a few more thoughts about this. First of all, I don't think that a vegan diet is magic or perfect or foolproof. Of course we're capable of consuming animal flesh and secretions. We're capable of this. I would never make the claim that we're not technically capable of consuming animals. However, on a side note, check out the podcast called Humans Are Meant to Eat Meat. There's part 1 and part 2. Check that out and you'll see why. But anyway, so technically, yes, we're able to consume animals and their secretions, but I don't particularly care how people ate 2,000, 10,000, 15,000 years ago. I have no desire to eat the same as my prehistoric ancestors. If you prove to me that early humans were primarily meat eaters, I wouldn't care. If you prove to me that early humans were primarily plant eaters, I wouldn't care. It has no bearing on my present choices. What I do know is that today, humans are not doing very well consuming animal flesh and secretions in this day and age. And an overwhelming amount of research supports the idea that we thrive on a whole foods, plant-based diet that also contains some supplementation. So in terms of health, while I don't think veganism is perfect, I do think it's optimum, okay? And finally, it's important for me to say that I'm not vegan for health reasons. All of the health benefits are bonuses for me. I'm vegan because nobody should have to die for my pleasure. And since I don't need to consume animals and their secretions to survive, eating them simply amounts to satisfying a want rather than a need. Taking their lives to satisfy my pleasure isn't an equation I want to live with. Another being's right to live, another individual's right to live free from harm, another female's right to her own reproductive cycles and offspring far outweigh any gustatory desires I may have. The thought of somebody suffering because of me is repugnant. It's not something I could live with now that I know. And taking a daily supplement is a small price for the opportunity to live in accordance with my values, with my principles, while ensuring that I'm hearty and healthy to keep doing this work. For their sake and for your sake, be healthy, be well, and be 12. Okay, I'm such a dork. This is Colleen with Compassionate Cooks. Thanks for listening.